Okay, so I'm working on my draft, and I just wanted to share, particularly with those of you who are sitting at home right now, how I'm trying to get to my conclusion and then what I'm thinking about for my introduction as we're working on our full draft for Thursday. So let me show you what I have so far. I'm just going to read you what I have. So my piece on flesh, I'm going to start off with my most basic definition, and then I'm going to move into talking about how flesh is very surfacey, and then I'm going to go underneath the surface. So you'll hear how it goes. It says, flesh is skin. My personal flesh is a patchwork of slight tan on my arms and pasty white hidden under my clothes. Flesh is our largest and most visual organ. It's how we judge ourselves and others. From a distance, our flesh may appear flawless. Much closer, our flesh is blemished with moles, hairs, scars. Flesh can be vulnerable. Flesh may be cut and it may bleed, but flesh heals. That's the wonder of the human body. After all, it may be only a flesh wound. But sometimes flesh wounds leave flesh scars of the damage to the skin, much like a tattoo or flesh art paints the skin. Flesh can be proud. The culture seems to encourage the exposing of flesh. Shakespeare's brash young Capulet brags about his own manhood. I'm a pretty piece of flesh. When we arrive, we're here, present in the flesh, an unexpected arrival, like Lazarus or a soap opera villain. Victor was killed off 3 seasons ago, but alas, he's back in the flesh. Flesh is tangible. Flesh is how we touch and connect with others. Politicians often press the flesh, quickly moving through the crowd, shaking hands with potential voters. Flesh is surfacey, trivial, unimportant. Like the fleshings of an animal's hide, it's discarded without thought. As in the phrase, to make fish of one and flesh of the other, we act without ever considering what's beneath the surface. Just a pause. So you'll notice I have some very short paragraphs. One paragraph actually has just one sentence to it. I'm also trying to be poetic with it, saying that flesh can be proud, flesh can be vulnerable, flesh can be tangible, that sort of thing. But I'm also trying to drive to a point, and I'm trying to show how I find that the surface is not really as valuable as what's underneath the surface. So I'm trying to pull that from my definitions. Here I'm making my transition into my second grouping, which is this word yet. Yet beneath the surface is the flesh of a fruit, a plant, an animal. Citrus fruits are fleshy fruits. We eat the flesh of an animal. Even as humans, we're but flesh and blood. Ask any doctor, what is not bone is flesh. Flesh is alive. Lazarus may be alive in the flesh, but it is truly in the flesh that he knows it. It's where we feel, far deeper than the surface. Something eerie can make our flesh crawl. Something annoying can be a thorn in one's flesh. When Shakespeare's Shylock demands a pound of flesh, it isn't 16 ounces of skin he's after. He wants a man's soul. I like here how I went back and pulled at Lazarus, as I used earlier, and I brought it back and I kind of twisted it a little bit. I'm also making another reference to Shakespeare. This is from, I'm blanking on it, the name of the play, Merchant of Venice. And then what I was struggling with right now is I was struggling with making it negative, and I wanted to make it positive. And the more I've been thinking about it, I think I want to go with a negative. It's not usually how I approach writing. So I try to find a positive ending, but I think I want to go negative. I was telling my A through L's that I wasn't going to, but I think I am. Here's what I have so far, and I'm not really happy with it, but I'm working with it. And why not? Biblically, the flesh is where our soul resides. It's our true nature, a weak one at that. We commit sins of the flesh. Even Jesus chided his disciples. The flesh is weak. And so I was resistant to doing negative, but the more I thought about it, I thought we get so caught up in making sure that the surface is pretty. We make sure that everything we do is what people can see is what is perfect. And I think sometimes we underestimate where the real value is. And the real value is underneath the surface. And maybe that's where we need to start with, of making sure what's underneath the surface is right before we worry about what's on the outside. So I think if the inside's right, the outside's right. So this is what I have so far in a conclusion. And like I said, I'm not sure I'm finished with all this, but as I go into my conclusion, which says, I'm not so sure what you see is what you get. With a quick glance, who we are is never just right on the surface. We need to flesh it out. Grab a scalpel, cut away at the facade, and find our true selves. And I want to dig into that, and I want to get into the idea that underneath the surface, maybe we're afraid of cutting that surface and getting underneath it and realizing that things aren't always perfect underneath the surface. But that's okay. Once we admit that and we clean up underneath the surface, we figure out what what's really valuable, then we'll be on the outside. Even if that leaves behind some scars, at least we've taken the time to go beneath the surface to make sure that we're all right. And that might be my point. I might do something sort of sciencey. I might do something with scars. I might do something with just sort of a way of letting us know that we've had to go beneath the surface to actually fix the surface. I don't know. I got a lot of ideas, but once I kind of figure out that conclusion, I'm going to bring it back to the beginning. I might pull out one of these things. I might use this quote from Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. I might do something with science. I'm not sure yet, but that's where I am right now. And I just want to make sure that those of you who are working at home can kind of see my process as I'm working on the writing, same time that you're working on your writing. Okay, that's all.